So, of course, it's been a few days that PlayStation VR has been out, and therefore people can spend a significant amount of time with it. I think it's fair to say, no amount of time at a trade show or something when you're playing a virtual reality headset or something really demonstrates what it actually is and what it's like to own it and what it is to, fully play a game from start to finish and stuff like that and your overall impressions. So that's, of course, what we're going to kind of do here, but with PlayStation VR. So, obviously, I've had my unit for a little bit now. I've had a decent amount of time to play a number of games. I think what's most important is definitely the fact that Sony provided the demo disc for pretty much every PlayStation VR headset. I think that's very important because it gives most people a lot of flavors to try within the VR space. Of course, that's what's a little significant here, is that this is kind of a whole new platform, a whole new kind of way to approach games and game development, so therefore all the experiences are going to be very different. So for the most part, PlayStation VR, my general initial impressions are, of course, quite positive. I mean, the headset is actually very comfortable, like most people are saying. I felt absolutely no fatigue playing it throughout extended periods of time, although I didn't find myself playing it in very extended periods most often because of the fact that it's really recommended that you shouldn't, especially if you're the kind of person that has a hard time easing into it in terms of nausea and motion sickness. And that's what's particular to me, is that for some games I'm fine, but for other games I'm not. In particular, games that are very fast, motion, twitch paced and stuff like that. Me in particular, I actually had a pretty hard time with it. I'm not going to lie. It didn't necessarily make me sick or anything like that, but it certainly it was a little overwhelming, especially since it is that situation where you don't have a whole lot of time to adjust to it. If you have only tried it at trade shows or something, or in small bursts at, say, at a retail store or something where you get to try it for a short play session, you need this thing in your house. You need to actually try it for a long amount of time and take those much needed rest periods in between. A lot of the games recommend that. Sony recommends that. All the menus when you're using the headset is going to recommend that. And more importantly, they are going to have a lot of disclaimers telling you about the motion sickness and things like that and how it is a very real possibility for you. What's interesting is that my girlfriend played it. She had no problem with anything. Absolutely nothing. There was one little part in Until Dawn Rush of Blood where, it would be in sort of a roller coaster fashion and it would get kind of quick. That was one little moment for her where it was whoa, she kind of felt something. So for me, it's, I started to play Driveclub VR. That kind of had a little bit for me. Riggs was the worst by far. Riggs Mechanized Combat with the big giant robots. Playing that one for me was very overwhelming. In that game, initially right when you boot it up, it has two modes. It has one it has one mode for comfort play, and it has one mode for when you are comfortable with the game, and it kind of opens the field of view more, and you can actually play the game in a more professional, more competitive manner. But it actually has a comfort mode, so the developer obviously knows. It was Gorilla Cambridge actually made that game, I believe, right? Gorilla Cambridge knew that they had an experience that is a bit overwhelming for especially people that just jump into it. So for me, that actually was a slight problem. Now it wasn't super big, but like I said, it was a title by title thing for me. So I think that's what's very important if you are considering PlayStation VR, is to, at the very least, when you first jump in, don't buy the headset and immediately buy full retail games. Just bring the headset home and just try that demo disc. And, see where you kind of sit with a lot of games and try to adjust yourself if that is a sort of problem. But, other than that, that's the thing too, is that comes with the virtual reality territory, so it's not necessarily particular to PlayStation VR. That's going to be a problem you'll run into with Oculus, with Vive. And it's even more specific to a game-by-game basis, like I said. Games that are more static, where you're just kind of staying in one place and looking around, it's a lot easier. But more specific to PlayStation VR, I guess one thing we can talk about is the resolution. Obviously, on paper, PlayStation VR, compared to Oculus and HTC Vive, it does have the lowest spec count. It does have, this is going to be an entry point for VR, and more certainly so because a lot of people own PlayStation 4s already. So if you already have a PS4, and especially if you already have a PS4 camera, you only need $400 to jump into virtual reality, and that's an easy pill for people to swallow compared to, say, an $800 PC rig and then the $600 Oculus or $800 Vive. So it's very easy to get into VR. And it's definitely something people should absolutely look into. That's the thing that still blows my mind, is people don't, find this interesting or something like that. You just have to put it on. You have to actually try it. And for the people that have already head over my place to try it, they immediately get it right away. And these were people that are just like most people and saying, oh, I don't see it, I don't see the point, I don't see the value in it, because it is a lot of money to ask, even at $400, even at the most affordable entry point. It is hard for a lot of people to jump in. So anyway, the resolution, obviously, Sony does a little bit of a method with extrapolating the image to make it look not as terrible and stuff, and they've actually done this quite well. A lot of games actually do look very good. I think for the most part, obviously, this is again sort of a spread out, widespread problem with VR, not just specific to PlayStation VR, but most often it is a little bit of a fuzzy image. It's not going to be like totally sharp, but PlayStation VR does a pretty good job. It's a title by title thing. Some games do it better than others. Some games that are notably worse is like Driveclub VR has some noticeable issues of blurriness, and even further out in the distance when you're driving, image quality looks quite poor. The Resident Evil 7 kitchen demo has some very rough jagged edges and stuff. There's like hardly no anti-aliasing in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the big problem, is that there is no great anti-aliasing in these games, and that's where it doesn't help when it already looks fuzzy and muddled. But at the same time, those two particular experiences were actually like pretty awesome. Honestly, in terms of immersion level, those two games, those two little experiences are quite awesome. I don't actually own Driveclub VR. I'll put that out there right now. So, I got a little list here to talk about. So we'll do a quick little roundup of some of the games I played in significant manner. This isn't a review by any stretch, but these are kind of some quick tidbits of the experience that I played. So, for example, PlayStation VR Worlds. I got the launch bundle. You're going to get a copy of that, PlayStation VR Worlds. So, you get 5 games. You get London Heist, Scavenger's Odyssey, Ocean Descent, VR Luge, Danger Ball. These aren't really games. They're small little, bite-sized experiences, more or less, which is actually standalone. I wouldn't buy this, but if you are looking at the launch bundle, definitely that's like a good plus to, like, if you need to move controllers or something, don't buy them separately. Get the launch bundle instead, and you'll have VR Worlds. Or if VR Worlds at some point is like in a bargain bin for $5 or something, definitely it's certainly worth that. Because it is one of those things where it's like the demo disc. It's very easy to ease you into it. It's a great way to sort of experience a number of things, that not only what virtual reality is, but certainly what it can be. Danger Ball was like really fun. That's where you just put your head, you're using your head to, play sort of a brick breaker one-on-one sort of thing, like Pong, more or less. Ocean Descent is actually pretty fucking awesome for sure. All you're doing is sitting in the water and kind of looking around and enjoying the view, but that's one thing you should be doing in VR, is enjoying the view and realizing what the immersion aspect of it, right? That's what VR is all about, and Ocean Descent demonstrates that very well as to what immersion can be. Like when you're sitting in the shark tank or the shark cage looking around, and the shark attacks you and stuff. It's very cool. So the other demos that I tried, obviously, and these are ones that I played in a pretty large significant amount. Like I played these ones over and over again to talk about. Eve Valkyrie is incredible. Like that is again another one where it hits it on a pretty big high note in terms of putting you in that position and making it feel authentic, and it actually looked very good too. The game did not look poor by any stretch of the imagination. It actually looked quite good, and it was an ambitious game where you're launching into space and shooting other spaceships, so that actually was quite good. Driveclub VR. So here's the thing about Driveclub VR. I'm actually a big car enthusiast. I love cars. It's one thing I guess a lot of people don't know about me. I'm very much so into cars. So Driveclub VR was actually mind-blowing to me because, for example, I love racing games, obviously. If I just said I'm a car enthusiast, I like racing games. The thing about racing games for me has always been I never liked the cockpit view. While it's cool that it looks like you can see the car interior and you can see the hands with turning the steering wheel, I've never liked the cockpit view. It just obscures the view of the game. I want to see it more of an arcade style where I see the whole car. Driveclub VR is the first time ever where I've liked a cockpit view, and that's because you're actually fucking in the car, you know what I'm saying? It actually felt like you were in the interior of a Ferrari, of a Pagani Hura. It was actually, it was mind-blowing, and that was one of the first things I knew right away when I got VR in my house. That's the first thing I actually wanted to boot into, and it's the first thing I did boot into. So I put it on, and sure enough, you can look at the car, and the immersion level is totally there. It looks like the Ferrari's full scale, like the actual size of a Ferrari. You can open the door, you can get in it, you can sit in the car's interior. Granted, like I said, the game is a little fuzzy. It's on the fuzzy side. It doesn't look nearly as sharp. It's one of the noticeably worst games in terms of resolution, but it was still like that. And just initially with the car interior and feeling like you're actually driving the car and being in the car, that made it that much better for me. With Riggs, like I said, Riggs was actually like the worst game for me in terms of motion sickness and nausea. Like I said, it didn't make me borderline sick, like throwing up or anything, but like you play it, and again, for me, girlfriend had no problem with this, and there's a lot of people that have no problems with this at all, so don't be too concerned about it. But like I said, it's one of those things where if you want PlayStation VR, just get the demo disc first and toy around with that to see if this might be a big problem for you. But for me, with Riggs, that was one where I just was kind of playing it, and it was just like really overwhelming, like, oh, whoa, and like I had to like stop after one match more or less. But that game actually looked great too. Like in terms of resolution and the image quality, that game actually looked really great, and it is really colorful. So it's a great looking game. It plays well. I can't really talk in terms of if it's like good or not because I didn't really get to play it all that much, but you know, it's definitely one that is up there in terms of immersion quality, in terms of picture quality. It's good. Until Dawn, Rush of Blood, and I guess we'll put this in with the Resident Evil 7 kitchen demo. So this is definitely like the situation where it's like, yeah, these are horror games. They're meant to scare you, and so with Until Dawn, yeah, totally got me. And here's the thing too, I'm like a little, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bitch with horror games. So Until Dawn like had a couple of like little scary moments. Until Dawn wasn't like that bad though. But it's an on-rail shooter. I mean, if you don't like on-rail shooters, then you're not gonna like this anyway. It just doesn't even matter if if it makes you feel like you're in the cart actually going through the thing or whatnot. You know, it's not gonna. If you never liked on-rail shooters, you're not gonna like this either. But as an on-rail shooter, it was fine. So the kitchen demo, it's only about like 5 minutes long, and you don't do anything. You just sit in a chair and kind of let the scene play out. But I'm not gonna lie, that was fucking terrifying. It was so good. Like I said, that little situation, the quality wasn't nearly as good in terms of resolution. It had a lot of tough jaggies in it, but it's so good, man. Like the psycho lady with the knife gets right in your face, and it's just like, it's there. It's authentic. It feels you're totally in that moment. It absolutely gets to you. It got to me. It got to my girlfriend. Got to my friends that played the demo. It's totally, that's a situation like with Driveclub where it's like the perfect demonstration of what VR can be and what games are going to be in the future, and it proves why VR is definitely an experience and something actually worth looking into, and something that's actually going to be that's going to stick with the games industry for sure. And it demonstrates what games are going to be. And so Resident Evil 7, when it actually comes out, I'm very interested to see how the whole game plays out. Next up, Job Simulator. Now this game I actually bought Job Simulator. I played through the whole game. It's quite short. The game's actually hilarious. It's like completely silly. You pretend to be in an office, you pretend to be a store clerk, a mechanic, a chef. The game is nothing but humor left and right, and it's super funny. Now the problem with Job Simulator is that you need a lot of play area for that game. A lot. That game needs to be in the living room, and you need to have literally nothing around you. I tried playing the game in my bedroom. Did not work. I can't, just right off the bat, I didn't have enough play area in terms of where the game wanted me to sit, and that's what you should listen to in terms of where the game wants you to sit, because if you don't follow that, then you're going to end up doing what I did, which is you have the 2-move controllers and you start hitting stuff left and right. And that's another thing we should mention too. Games with 2-move controllers, definitely the best way to go. Absolutely works, puts you in that immersion, makes it that much more realistic. I will say that the only thing that really bugs me, and it's got to be something that developers willingly do from a development perspective, but it still bothers me. I don't know why. If a game has like floating hands, it just, that takes it out for me. Like it's weird. You put the headset on, you're in that world, it feels authentic. You got the 2-move controllers where your hands are moving and it feels real. But the second you have them floating, it's like, that just seems so stupid to me, and I don't get why they can add arms in, but like I said, I'm not a developer, so there's got to be a reason for it. In the Resident Evil 7 demo, you can see, you can clearly see your arms, and you can see your shoulders, so that actually, worked quite well. Of course, there was many situations where it might have looked weird, or you start to clip into your shoulder or something. So that might be a situation why a lot of developers choose not to do it. But the floating hands I don't like whatsoever. Anyway, Job Simulator had floating hands. That didn't bother me there, of course, because the game is satire to begin with. But it's a lot of fun. You just need a lot of room. So I had to take that game into my living room to play it. And even then, it was actually having a really hard time tracking the move controllers. For the most part, it worked. But there were situations where, and I knew I had the space for it, and I knew the camera could see the whole play area. But for some reason, if I had to get low or something, or like really reach out or something, it would just have a lot of spotty areas where if you do have to really move around the play area, it just for some reason has a really tough time, even though the move camera is even though the PlayStation camera is seeing the whole living room, which I had to reconfirm multiple times just to make sure this was a problem, that there wasn't a problem with the camera seeing me. It could see everything. For some reason with that game in particular, if you really start to move around, which you do have to do, it just doesn't work. But that game was a lot of fun for sure, and I would absolutely recommend that game. Just for the laughs, it's hilarious. And then the last one is Res Infinite, which is a totally trippy game. That's another one where it could be a problem for some people. I could bear the game for a while, but then the game starts to get really trippy with its colors and flashing lights, and it starts to get really fast. So there's certain moments in that game where it might get a little bad for you, but I could stick through it mostly. That game's a lot of fun too. I guess it's just one of those things where, so if a game has you just in one spot and all you have to do is just sort of head tracking, it's really easy, it's enjoyable. But if the game has you really doing a lot of heavy movement or fast movement, it'll be a problem. But the thing is, the games where you get to move and stuff, and it is fast motion, those are the games we want to see. Those are the kind of games that will make virtual reality really fun, because those are, that's the thing. The last 3 days I've been playing PlayStation VR, trying everything, trying all these demos. I'm loving it. I'm don't get me wrong, the experience so far has been very overwhelmingly positive. I like it a lot so far. But all the demos and Job Simulator that I've played, and the other games that I'm going to get the full retail games for now that I've decided which ones I want to buy, it only makes me think of games that have already been released, but I just think, I would love to play these games in VR. I would love to play BioShock, but actually be in Rapture, actually be in Columbia. I would love to play Skyrim, but actually be in that universe and move around. Any other game I can think of, that's what I like. That's what I kept coming back to. All the experiences that I'm playing now are fine and they're enjoyable, but I think of games that have already been released and I'm like, oh my god, I wish I could play this in VR. And those are kind of games where you can't really patch VR for those games. You just can't. They have to be developed from the ground up for VR. But that's what you start to think is okay, here's the VR experiences we have now. They're fun, they're enjoyable, but they're not really demonstrating. They do demonstrate, but they're not they're not full retail games. They're not these full multi-million-dollar big budget games that we want. And you think they're the ones that have been released, and now you think, oh, this is what it could be, and that's what really gets you excited. So that's what's always excited me about virtual reality, and I'm even more excited now that we actually have the device, and we've been able to spend a lot of time with it. So for the most part, PlayStation VR, good. I like it a lot. It does have its fair share of problems, but I think that's what Sony kept highlighting when they say, we'll do multiple versions of VR at some point. This is something we're going to keep working on. Obviously, all the other manufacturers in VR have said the same thing. This is the first generation device of it, and that's not to sort of deny people away from it, I guess. Even though it's a first generation device and it has its fair share of issues, it's still certainly exciting, and if you've got the cash to do it, I would certainly go for it. It does have its faults, and that lies with, if you are the kind of person that has a problem with the motion sickness and the nausea, the tracking is definitely a problem. If you've got a big room, you're going to need a big room for a lot of these games. Not all of them, and that's the thing too. I could play most games in my bedroom where there's limited space, and I just got to sit in my chair and just kind of enjoyed them with just the head movement and whatnot, because a lot of these games are still controllers, still regular DualShock 4, And the ones with Move controllers, I could still even do. Job Simulator was the one in particular. I needed a whole living room with that where there was nothing around me. There's going to be more games like that, but a lot of games you're not going to need that. So it's situational, but for the most part, PlayStation VR has been pretty awesome. These are just initial impressions, not a final review. Anyway, if you have PlayStation VR, I implore you all to let me know how you feel about the device. But obviously, a lot of people don't have PlayStation VR, and that's fine because there's still a lot of reservations people have about it. And to you people, I say, just go try it. You don't have to buy it right away, but at the very least, put the damn thing on your head, and then you can speak on it, because that's when the tides will probably really turn. It really is an awesome experience once you get to try it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Take it easy.